Hello, everyone, and welcome to LaLiga Centro, Alexis and Rodri. We are back. I'm coming to you from my wonderful bedroom because I'm in the middle of a move, guys. I'm moving flats in London, and they're doing renovations in the living room, and this is the only place that's not descended into complete chaos yet. So you're welcome to my bedroom. My Westlife posters are there. My dog Zlatan is somewhere down there. But Rodri, how are you? Oh, but before, I know we still have one more match day, but El Clásico is coming.
Yeah.
ESPN.
Sure. And I never imagined recording this podcast with a Westlife poster behind you. No, this is something new for me.
VIP.
Oh, okay. VIP. Yeah. Did you go as a VIP?
I got fancy seats and everything. But anyways, this is our first episode back since the international break. I know a lot of people sometimes say it's a lull in the international break. But I think this international break was a bit more interesting because it is the last official big one until the FIFA World Cup, which is now less than 2 months away. So let's pay that off before we talk about what we saw in La Liga this weekend. First and foremost, what were you up to
this weekend?
Well, no, in the international break, you're always.
Yeah, no, I made the most weird travel ever in my life, because when everyone was expecting me to go to any Spain or England game, I attended to San Marino game, which is the worst national team ever. Well, now they are at the last spot of the national team table ever worldwide, and they were about to win Seychelles Islands. I don't know if you pronounce it like this. And they were playing in San Marino, which is a small country inside Italy, and they drew. I mean, it was impossible. I was wondering, how are you not able to win these people? But it was fun. It was fun, and the people from San Marino, they are really nice people.
I bet, like pretty amazing experience, huh? Overall,
yeah, sure. I suppose. Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, it was great because I never went to a national team game like this, because San Marino is a very, very tiny country and a very tiny national team, and then they were facing Seychelles Islands, and they were just like San Marino. For me, it was a great experience in terms that football doesn't really matter the way you have. It's just football, and people love it.
It's like what they tell you in school, that it's the participation that counts, not the winning.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
Participation, and fair play to them. Fair play. Everyone looks at San Marino as the beating sticks of Europe. For some reason, they always get England, and England ends up winning 10-0, and everyone says, England's gonna win the World Cup, and everyone's like, guys, chill. It's San Marino.
Happens the same to Man United, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow, we did not need to go there. But okay, time and place for everything. So I'll tell you a new one in another one. Well, I covered the U.S. men's national team. Of course, this is a exciting time for U.S. men's soccer, especially with the World Cup coming up. And plus, they had 2 games. One in Dusseldorf, which was interesting when Argentina were in the U.S. and everyone was like, why don't they play there? And then in Murcia, somewhere I've never been to, in Spain. So that.
Do you like Murcia?
I really liked it. It was very small. It was definitely a small town. Unfortunately, did not get to explore as much as we wanted to, because we literally went from the hotel to the training ground to back to the hotel. And then we had to do our enlaces in vivo, which, our hits take you till 2 a.m. sometimes for ESPN. But overall, disappointing window for the U.S. men's national team. I guess they weren't able to get a win. They weren't even able to score a goal, which is a bit of, a big concern, I suppose, less than 2 months out from the World Cup, when you've got people like England and Wales in your group, your first match coming up against Wales. But you know what? They were without a couple of big name players, one being Yunus Musa from Valencia, who plays in La Liga as well. Celta de Vigo's Luca de la Torre played as well. I guess he had a decent day out, but look, we got to speak to a lot of the players after, like Christian Pulisic, and none of them seem to be worried, and they seem to believe that the US will get it together in time for the World Cup. So I suppose fingers crossed there, because it is an exciting time for US men's soccer, and I think a lot of people are hoping that they surpass the expectations that are already quite high, I must say. And then after that, I got to go to Valencia spoke with Yunus Musa. We have an ESPN exclusive coming
I was
up.
so jealous. Believe me, I was jealous because I saw your Instagram stories and I saw how you were eating paella, and I was like, no way, I'm hungry. And I'm seeing you both eating paella, and a well done paella. It was like, my God, man, I want some.
It was a special experience. So you guys definitely should look out for it. It's going to come up on ESPN, on our ESPNFC YouTube as well. We spoke about everything from Valencia, what it's like working with Gennaro Gattuso. You know, even Yunus said he forgets how big Gattuso is/was, because I was talking to him and I was like, dude, your manager is Gattuso, like the Gattuso. Like for me growing up, obviously Yunus is still quite young. I was like, he's a legend. And he stopped and he's like, oh my gosh, you're right. He's like, you know, sometimes we forget who he was and how he's like. And I was like,
and the good thing of Gattuso is like he's an old school coach. You know, once you're interviewing these kind of guys, it's like, okay, they say what they think. And you notice that it's not like the brand new coaches that they have the speech well prepared and ready for any kind of situation. But now he's just so natural. He's so close to the people. And that's why Valencia people is in love with Gattuso.
Yeah, no, I was talking to him about it, and he was saying that when everybody found out Gattuso was going to be the manager of Valencia, all of the younger players were Googling him and looking at him on YouTube, and anybody that watched Gattuso as a player knows that he was feisty. He was an absolute loose cannon, which is why we love him. But all of the players were like, oh my God, they're like,
he was a proper fighter.
Yeah, they were like, we have to work with this man. We're terrified now, but they're having a good time, you know, and it was great. Valencia, they chose a place. For people that don't know, paella originally did come from Valencia, and the original paella has rabbits and snails. So it was an interesting thing to cook for us. Valencia set it all up. So
now you realize what paella is made of, innit? Because when you travel abroad and you see, for example, in England or in the States, you see paella, and it's like, okay, let's see what they put on, and it's just like, man, this is not rice with so many things. Put it simple, please. Put it simple and proper paella.
Simple, proper paella. So look out for that, guys. It's coming up for you as we get closer to the World Cup. But enough World Cup talk. I suppose let's get straight into the first match day that we saw after this international break. Some interesting results, being that Real Madrid dropped points for the first time this season. I was actually a bit nervous because I was loving our Invincibles chat and saying, yeah, they could probably go invincible. I mean, it depends on what happens in El Clasico. But against a 10-man Osasuna, something that I don't know if anybody saw coming at the Bernabeu under the lights. Rodri, what did you think of the game?
Well, this is something that had to get for Real Madrid, because they were on the edge in a couple of times in these past games in LaLiga beginning, that they were about to drop some points. But finally, when you face Osasuna, you face a very defensive team when they play in Santiago Bernabeu. But at the same time, they defend really well, but they attack really well. And they are really fast, very vertical, and they have so many great players. And I remember, you know, when David Garcia, when he was sent off, I was like, man, this is gonna be so hard for them to defend and keep this clean sheet. But finally, they were like, my God, man, they're struggling. They're gonna get a draw, and they fought so well. The Real Madrid wasn't unable to make the second goal, even with that penalty that Benzema missed, which is something that, you know, did you know that this is the third time in a row that the same goalie stops a penalty against Benzema? Benzema, you know, in the past 3 penalty shoots, he missed against Sergio Herrera. And this was something great back at Bernabeu last night. So that's why they struggle a lot in attacking. They couldn't face the goal as they did in the previous game. So that's why, you know, this is something that Real Madrid has to think about in the second leg of the season, because what if Benzema doesn't score the goals that he scored last season? What will happen? Think about that.
That's exactly what we were wondering as well. And I mean, when you look at the stats, 22 shots at goal, but only 4 of them were on target for Real Madrid. they did dominate. They had all of the possession. They did have their chances, but it was weird to not see them as deadly in the final third and taking their chances. Because if there's one thing that Real Madrid does, it's take their chances. And for example, we saw like the likes of Mallorca score against them, and we know Mallorca's a different team, of course, and we'll give Osasuna their props for this one. But you were always waiting. I was like, don't worry, we know this story all too well. We know it's going to happen. And when I saw the penalty, I said, here is the penalty. That probably should go in. Then we're going to see Vinny score after, and then maybe Rodrigo. And no, it just never came. So I think massive props to Osasuna for that. It was incredibly difficult after going down 10 men. And I mean, Real Madrid, I suppose we look at them and some changes, we did see were made. For example, Valverde wasn't starting, Rodrigo started. I absolutely love me some Rodrigo as well. A big miss too, no Thibaut Courtois, Rodri. We know you had a bit of a knock coming after international break. You expect the odd knock or two. We saw lots of injuries, especially to Barcelona. We'll get to that in a bit. But Courtois, what's the latest there? Should we be worried? Because it's a very busy couple of weeks next. And as we said, he's been one of their best players, if not their best player last season too.
Yeah, they have to play against the Shakhtar Donetsk 2 games in a row in the Champions League. And then in between, they have to travel to Getafe. Well, I mean, they have to face Getafe away. And that's why Courtois is making some tests now at the Real Madrid training ground to see if he finally take that risk to play on Wednesday, or if he rests a little bit and is ready for the Clásico. I've been told that he will be ready for the Clásico for sure, 100%. But the only doubt that Real Madrid, that the medical services, and even the coach and the player, they are thinking about is that he may play on Wednesday or even on the weekend against Getafe. So let's see what happens finally. But the thing is that, he was a little bit upset because he wanted to play last night and he couldn't be able because he has like a little pain in the back. He has like a nerve. I don't know if you call it nerve in English, but he has like a nerve that kind of disappoint him in terms that he's not fit enough and comfortably enough to play football. So that's why he stayed at home last night.
It's such an interesting time because there's so many games coming thick and fast for club in their leagues, in the Champions League. You want to play in all of them because you know what you need to do. But for someone like Courtois, who is, Belgium's #1, you're also thinking of the World Cup. And I remember talking to Eunice about it, and you're almost like, you don't want to play, but you want to play, but you almost want to be perfect for the World Cup. So I'm sure Belgium and everyone is holding a little breath as well. But one interesting stat though, like we were saying, that Courtois is or has been easily top 3 best players for Real Madrid from last season. But this season so far, again, he's been brilliant. But Real Madrid, any worries? They asked Carlo Ancelotti at the end of this match, and it was interesting. He kind of deflected from it, but he said, is it a worry that they've not kept a single clean sheet so far? Yes, they're winning. Yes, they're scoring more goals, but no clean sheets. And you've strengthened your defense. You've got some big name defenders on there. You've got, probably one of, if not the best goalkeeper in the world right now. Is that concern for you, Rodri? What do you think?
Well, at the end, you have to think about what Real Madrid has in defense this season. And I know that all the people may say that, okay, you have Militao, you have Alaba, you have Carvajal, even you have Mendy. It's the same defense line the last year. And I understand that. But then you have to think about the rotations that Ancelotti is making this season, because they included Antonio Rudiger from Chelsea, and he has to adapt yet to Real Madrid defensive system, which is something that will take maybe a little bit more for the German guy. So that's why they have to adapt. They have to rotate a little bit more, and that reflects on the results. And now you think about the rivals that Real Madrid is facing at this La Liga beginning, which are not really bad rivals because they are very vertical and they get advantage of any kind of space that Real Madrid may have in the back. So that's why I wouldn't be, to be honest, I wouldn't be worried about that if I were a Real Madrid fan, because this is something that Ancelotti is going to make up for sure in the following weeks.
All right, well, still all good in the hood then for Real Madrid. They're still unbeaten so far this season. Arguably their biggest test, definitely, which at first we thought was going to be the El Derby Madrileño. That wasn't the biggest test. Instead, we always knew it was going to be El Clásico, especially at the rate Barcelona are going. It's painful that there's still one match day to go before that, but definitely we'll talk about El Clasico in depth. We're going to be there. We're going to have 10 days of coverage on ESPN, so look out for that. But let's talk about Barcelona, I suppose, shall we? All right, so let's talk Barcelona. I say this, just a 1-0 win at Mallorca. They traveled to Mallorca, another beautiful place, by the way, somewhere I need to go. Xavi made some changes. We saw the likes of Ansu Fati starting, no Rafinha for that one as well. Pedri got a little bit of a break, and Gerard Piqué came back, put in a good shift against all odds. And I mean, death taxes Robert Lewandowski goals. We keep saying that, and today, not today, but that match was absolutely no different. Rodri, thoughts on this win? Do Barca look still as convincing as we'd want them to look before El Clasico, especially because after the international break, they've suffered a couple of concerning injuries. Memphis Depay, of course, on duty for the Netherlands, as well as Frenkie de Jong. And a big one, the one that genuinely hurts me, is Araujo, because we've spoken about how much I rate him as a player, as a very vocal, almost second captain, third captain, if anything. So what did you think of the win?
Well, for me, it was the most important game of Barca so far in this season, and I'm gonna say why. First of all, because you just mentioned the thing that they were struggling to make a good enough starting 11 due to those injuries in the international break, which is something that broke Xavi's plans for sure. Because when you don't have Koundé, you don't have Frenkie de Jong, which is not able to play either this game in Champions League against Inter de Milan. You have so many people, like you mentioned, Araujo, no, I mean, it was really tricky for Xavi to make a starting 11. So that's why he included Piqué and these kind of guys that are not really used to play this season. And for me, when you are facing Mallorca and you are playing away in Son Moix, this is a very difficult game, because they were, Javier Aguirre always make a really aggressive teams, and the pressure that they have against Barcelona is huge. So that's why for me it was the most important victory for Barca so far in this season. First of all, because of those injuries, and secondly, because that win provokes that Barca now is the actual leader of the table. And if we are back next season, imagine that we are back in May, and you say, okay, Barca is going to be the leader of the next La Liga season by October. You would say, Rodri, are you crazy? But we're not crazy. This is the good thing of La Liga, that Real Madrid fails, then you got Barcelona, because they don't fail. When Barca fails, Real Madrid doesn't fail. It's the good thing of football and the good thing of La Liga, no?
It's just crazy to see that, Barca are at the top of the table now after this match day weekend, because as we said, over the last year, we've seen the good, the bad, the ugly for Barcelona. And one of the things that you said, I agree with you 100%. I think I was so interested. I was working Premier League, so I didn't get to see the entire Barcelona match. But I was constantly refreshing the score on my phone just to see if Mallorca scored one after, because I felt like this was the most vulnerable we've seen Barcelona after all these, not just injuries, but big name injuries, and injuries that we know that Xavi could call on to come off of the bench. Because even last year, when we look at the squad, of course, we talk about the business Barcelona has made in the transfer window. But last year, when the big names, so to speak, or the titulares, the first 11 weren't firing, you were always like, well, who does then Ronald Koeman and then Xavi bring off the bench? And everybody was making jokes that he's bringing 16-year-olds from La Masia off the bench. That is the deep squad Barcelona have. When you look at, say, what Carlo Ancelotti has on his bench, he's got a mix of young, talented players, but players that are also experienced and have won trophies. And you just looked at how different it was at Barcelona now for their quote unquote bench players to get, this kind of result, as you said, away from home. I think it's a huge message for Barcelona. And then, of course, Robert Lewandowski, how do you stop him? I hope nobody does, because it just makes this season so good, and it will make El Clasico even better. The posters have already gone up, and it's like Benzema looking at Lewandowski, and it'll be interesting to see that matchup. Like I said, I know there's still one more match day to go, but we're getting excited from now. This is good. So at least Barcelona overcoming their what was one of their biggest tasks. Before we move on to Preguntas Difíciles, I do want to just squeeze in our boys at Atletico de Madrid got a massive win against our other boys at Sevilla. Props to Atletico de Madrid. Our boy Marcos Llorente got on the score sheet, then Alvaro Morata. Madrid doing absolute bits. But quickly, we just want to talk on Sevilla, because now I've seen the reports and people are now saying that it's expected that Lopetegui is going to be sacked, especially after this kind of a result. Because again, it was not just that Atletico de Madrid, who maybe went in looking at as favorites, beat Sevilla in Sevilla, but it's how they lost. Again, looking so confused. And you look at the table, 1 point over the relegation zone. They're 1 point. It's worse than I had imagined, worse than we have imagined. And we've been talking about how bad Sevilla has looked all season. So Rodri, what are you hearing? Lopetegui out?
Yeah, it looks like in the following hours he will be out of Sevilla. This is something that we talked about in the previous shows, because I told you that Lopetegui is the main problem of Sevilla at this moment. I don't really understand why, in the way they ended the past 2 seasons, why Monti didn't sack Lopetegui before. And I know that this is going to hurt a little bit at Sevilla, because the club treat us really well always, and they are, for me, an example of how managed football in the last decade. But I don't know what happened in these two seasons, because this was something that we all already knew that was going to happen. So that's why, even this morning, another player from Sevilla, Regic, fell injured because of a muscle issue. Once again, the coach didn't work. The coach looks like he's out of the plug completely. And when you see in the pitch what happened against Atletico Madrid, you see that, there's no plan A, no plan B. And when you face Atletico Madrid or whoever team is playing against Sevilla this season, they know what Sevilla will do. So this is really easy for the rivals to win Sevilla. And when you have Atletico Madrid and you have back Jimenez, Savic, so you have Witsel playing in his natural position, you knew what was going to happen. So that's why this is kind of sad. They are now negotiating with Sampaoli to be back at Sevilla bench. Yeah, I don't know if
that was the name that we heard the most, Jorge Sampaoli, that he's still back home, I think in Argentina or something, but I'm sure he'll make it over to Andalusia as quick as possible if he gets the job. But what do people feel there, that he's the right man for the job? Because like I said, seeing Sevilla coming so close last season to flirting with at least, proper European spots, maybe even the title. It sounds crazy that we were thinking of this last season, and now look at where they are, above the relegation zone by 1 point. It's crazy to see Sevilla fall this low. So somebody needs to come in and steer that ship properly. So what does everyone feel, that Sampaoli definitely could be the man?
Could be. I mean, people are disappointed because this is a disaster, a massive disaster for Sevilla this season. And they know that any coach that can be back, in this case, Sampaoli, is going to be better option than Lopetegui. Because believe me, when you see Sevilla game, any Sevilla game, this is like, oh my God, you don't have the talent you used to have, but the same players are inside the pitch. So that's why something doesn't really work there. And I think, the Lopetegui exit must be something that has to happen now, right now, in order to Sampaoli to work before, as soon as possible, to try to fix this. Because if not, Sevilla is going to struggle even to compete in Europe by the end of the season. And this is something that could attend to financial problems by the end of this year. So that's why they need something to do, and that thing has to be done as soon as possible now.
Yeah, massively worrying times at Sevilla. We hope that they do manage to sort things out, because it is an interesting year, of course, with the World Cup, but that may give them a break to try and sort things out as well. But still,
and believe me, Alexis, when you are bad and you are in this situation, but the rival, the main rival, Betis, is doing that good, doesn't really help.
Doesn't help at all. I would know. I would know. As you mentioned, the Manchester derby, but whatever. Yeah.
I said
I'm used
nothing
to
on
seeing
this.
my rivals doing that good. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. Remember that we are going to have another special edition of LaLiga Centro in person. You're going to get me and Rodri in person with all the bands. We're going to bring in Gemma Soler as well to talk about Barcelona. And we'll be there with everyone live and direct in Madrid where it goes down. So we're just going to fly through this one and get some preguntas difíciles before we get on our way, shall we? And before they continue vacuuming my living room. All right, so Frenkie de Jong to Manchester United. Remember that saga, guys? It's all we ever spoke about this entire year. Well, it seems like it's over, but the pregunta difícil is, it's not over. Can you see that? Do you still think there's a chance?
Not for me, no, really. I mean, when we were back in the summer window transfer, I was like, this is impossible because he didn't want to get together again with Ten Hag. And for me, if there was a chance in between Man United and Frenkie de Jong, it was this summer. For me now, there's no point to talk about this because I don't really see that in a near future.
I mean, the thing is, for me, I still think from the Man United side, I don't think United have 100% given up on him because there is still always that link with Ten Hag whilst he's there and whilst things are going south for United, which they kind of are. Well, from my point of view, I would say from what I've heard from the United side is that they're not 100% over this yet, especially with Ten Hag still there and while things still are up in the air with United. But the point is, Frenkie de Jong just doesn't want to leave. And I feel like he's helped himself more under Xavi and at Barcelona now that people also want him to stay. They kind of love the fact that he's saying no to Manchester United, you know? So I think, I don't think it's over, but I don't know when it's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen in January or if it doesn't happen next summer, then I think forget about it.
Are you going to switch Barcelona, Mediterranean Sea, the sun, the sand for Manchester rain? You sure?
Let's remind people that you lived in Manchester for how long.
And I love Manchester.
Yeah, don't exactly. You know you love it. I do love Manchester though.
I'm not for it.
I would definitely much rather Barcelona to live in for sure. I'm an island person. Come on. All right, Real Madrid would be the perfect destination for Jude Bellingham. What do you think? Yeah,
I do believe, and I do agree with that because I see Luka Modric by the end of next season retiring from football, or at least from Real Madrid. I'm pretty sure that the Croatian guy is going to say, okay, this is enough for me. It's time to move on and let the youngsters come in. And that youngster, for me, the best one now, the moment is Jude Bellingham. And I see him playing at Real Madrid. I know that he's mad to come to Madrid. So I got to say something. Jude, I know you're watching us. Come here. You're going to be comfortable. You're going to be tough. You're going to be fit. You're going to be a starter for Ancelotti. You're going to sure that midfield with Tchouaméni, with Camavinga, you're going to be happy here. And you're going to prefer Madrid rather than Dortmund. Sorry for these Dortmund fans, but Real Madrid is a little bit better. Come here. Come on.
No, I think everyone knows that. I mean, with all due respect to Dortmund, I think when they get someone so young like a Jude Bellingham, everyone expects them to prime them until they're ready to go to a club like Real Madrid. And, you know, so many players say that once Real Madrid come knocking, as we know, it's hard to say no. And especially with his type of position looking like it could be up for grabs in a bit, even though, as you said, Luka Modric, who are we to ever put a retirement date on him? The man is not regular humans like the rest of us. He's superhuman, if you will. But Jude Bellingham, I mean, he's so sought after. I think any club would want him by now. So the world could be his oyster, and that world could end up being Real Madrid.
And it's the fastest way for Jude Bellingham to win a title in white.
Fair. Whoa.
Because with England, it's going to be really a bit
You've
tough.
just jinxed it now. England now are going to win the World Cup. Like, look what you just said. Oh,
No.
Look what you've done. Look what you've done.
No.
You've made it happen now. Fede Valverde is Real Madrid's most important player now.
Yes.
Now. Yeah. See,
Yes.
I was going to say 100p. I know we're talking about Vinny's and the Benzemas. I know we can talk about Courtois, but Valverde, it's like, you know how we have our Luis Garcia, he drinks sangria, and we talk about everybody and Lewandowski at Barcelona, and he keeps saying, for me, Dembele is the man at Barcelona. I think that Valverde is my Dembele. He's the one that everyone goes, yeah, he's really good. But if you take him out of the team, you're kind of like, oh God, what are we missing? Valverde. That's what you're missing.
No, at this moment, Valverde is the best player at Real Madrid. And I do believe that because he proved it. We are seeing Vinicius in this La Liga starting like what he is and what we expect from him. But now, you know, in these past 2 weeks, I think Valverde is the guy in the midfield that is making the team play a little bit better. And he's the one with character, with personality. They saying, okay, I'm going to make this a step ahead to try to lead this team. And he's making it. And he's really young. I mean, he's only 23 years old. So that's why he's going to be massive for Real Madrid in the near future. And now he's proven that he's fit enough to make it. And if Modric fails, if Schumavinga, I love that. Okay, if Camavinga or Tchouaméni fails, he's gonna be out there, you know, saying like, okay, I'm the leader of this midfield and I'm gonna be here forever.
I absolutely love that. Just put both of them together. If we can throw in Modric, then it'd be like Camavinga Trich.
Yeah.
Camavinga.
Florentino's dream. Try to mix
like
all
how
of
you
them.
had Brangelina.
A new superhero.
Is a new superhero, Camavinga. I love that. No, but I agree. I mean, with Valverde, like I said, I love his work rate. He always gives 150%. That man just does not stop moving. When he's not scoring, and he scores some clutch goals, like some absolute stunners. When he's not scoring, he assists some brilliant goals as well. He's happy to do that. He's happy to step back and assist the goals too. I think he's just an all-around team player, but someone that has amazing moments of brilliance, that understands, can read the game and choose when to kind of bring in that individual moments of brilliance, but as well is very happy to be a team player. And I think that in a superstar team like Real Madrid, sometimes we talk about how too many individuals or any egos, blah, blah, blah. I think Valverde is just one of those that is happy to pull the strings from behind, but is also happy to step into the limelight. And when he steps in, I mean, we get some worldy goals too. So absolutely love me some Fede Valverde, 100%.
And he leaves Real Madrid and he loves the way Real Madrid feels. So that's why he's going to be here forever.
He's going to be, he's a special, special player indeed. Absolutely love seeing him. Almost as much as I love seeing Tchouaméni. Like, I think can we just call this like the Tchouaméni episode? We need to have a midfield episode where we can make it midfielders and put their names. Anyways, that's a wrap for this week's episode. Like I said, a shortish but sweetish one. Hopefully we try to fly through everything as much as possible, because we are going to be back next week with another episode of LaLiga Centro. So you don't have to wait the 2 weeks, because it is going to be El Clásico. And we're going to be out there in Madrid doing absolute bits. We're going to be
I get a suitcase in my house.
Yeah, you do.
You get to pick him up.
Rodri has a suitcase, and no, we're going to be there. Everybody will got you covered in English as well as Spanish. So please look out for it, because we'll be there. And I think this is the El Clásico, or the edition of El Clásico, that everyone's been the most excited about in quite a while, especially last season. Both of them, yes, at least Madrid 1-1, Barca 1-1 away from home, but it was very lopsided. And I think now we should have at least as close to an evenly matched Clásico as we've expected. So
thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.